Today I'm joined again by Steve Martinez, who's a managing consultant at IMD Group Limited. Again, for the second in our series of vlogs focused on digital transformation. As a reminder, IMD Group Limited specialise in P3M, project controls, data analytics, learning and development, and cyber information and security. Thanks, Steve, and thanks again for joining us today, and hopefully look forward to delving a little bit more deeper into the digital transformation journey. Just out of the box, I kind of wanted to talk around the commencement aspect of digital transformation project, if that's all right, and really focus on when you're commencing a digital transformation project, what would you consider to be essential for that strategy, and what are the key pitfalls that an organisation should look to avoid when they start off on that digital transformation journey?
Yeah, so thanks very much, Dave. So really when preparing for a transformation, we've got to think about urgency. And so where there's a true urgency, it's a good catalyst for change. Equally, where you might have a perceived urgency, that can sometimes conflict on what you're trying to achieve. So urgency needs to be measured and it needs to be used at the right time. But don't rush into solutions, okay? So incorrectly specified tools and technologies can turn out to be quite insufficient in some cases in support of your objectives. So that needs to be clearly planned and assessed throughout the preparation of your transformation journey. Part of this is to understand the full extent of your transformation, the consideration of the vision, the objectives. There's always going to be changes that are going to go well beyond just changing some IT systems. So use a convincing case for change that's valid, that the organization can relate to. It is valid for the entirety of the organization. So ensure it aligns with your stakeholder views, your customer views, your users, and most importantly, I think, one that motivates the entirety of the team. Also, inform that strategy that you're commencing on for that digital transformation with real business insight. You need to deploy the right skills to inform that, those that are deep-rooted with experience. It's an absolute must to be able to support that strategy development. And particularly, I think, where you've got areas of maintaining a secure environment. Really, you can't neglect any of these points of analysis, as it can lead to surprises downstream, which inevitably is going to hinder the successes that you're planning. This can also enable, if you do think about it early enough, to put mitigation strategies in place.
Thanks very much for that, Steve. And just moving on, I want to start looking and thinking about ensuring that deeply rooted seeded change model, and really how do organisations avoid developing operating models which are only really surface deep and don't have the required positive impact organisational wide.
So it's really important for any organisation to firstly understand its operating model. So consider which networks exist. There's going to be many. There's going to be processes, tools, hierarchy, skills and talent, all alongside the real network of the people in the team. So it's essential that you know where you're starting from. What is your beginning operating model? This includes the organisational capabilities and services. Many organisations struggle with silo functions and the operating models within. So the organisation must come together and really unite to collectively change, adapt, and drive the successes they need. We often at IMD help with this engagement because we're there to help understand this position, what the effectiveness is of the existing operating model. We do that by being part of the team and putting the spotlight on what's really working and what isn't. Models can be built to match the new direction from there, combined with those key readiness assessments to understand where there's any risks, if there's any perhaps impacts that will have a negative effect. Dave, I'd be really keen to understand from your perspective if this aligns with your experience.
It definitely does, and sort of one of the examples I've kind of came across is when trying to deploy a new business solution. The challenges around that, trying to run those two systems synchronously, and then still following that similar operating model that was based on the old system that you're trying to retire, whilst trying to get the new system up and running. I've always felt that quite often there can be a failure in trying to change that business model with the system rather than sort of reverting back to the old kind of methodology that we followed on the original system. So that's definitely been an area that I've sort of observed over the years, where developing that operating model and really sort of getting that rooted into the business is quite key, and not kind of falling back on the old principles or sort of approach to how a solution's delivered or how people access that solution. So absolutely right from my perspective, something I've seen quite often, and something that should definitely be considered as a key part of the project delivery.
I suppose that the communication is also going to be key to any part of that. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear. Thanks, Dave.
And now I really want to try and focus on the types of transformation processes and working models. And with types of transformation and those processes and working models that can be achieved by leveraging digital and taking a digital first approach, how can organizations become much more self-aware and learn to do more with less, working more efficiently and improve the way that they work and deliver services?
So that's a really good question, Dave. So I think we all recognise technology is really changing the way we work for the best in the current situation. So it's enabled us to interact, communicate, and consume services in a better way. The public expect digital by default. This is helping the user experience and really provides better communication with the public. So one of the ways that we can enable that is to use the right data, and data analytics is a key to unlock that. The potential of digital transformation to achieve significant improvements in operational efficiency can lead to improved insight and performance ultimately. So the availability of that data and insight allows us to make more informed decisions in a timely manner to drive the organization forwards. And that's going to be able to create those efficiencies we desire. Many organizations from all sectors are already starting to use this. They're using it to develop more efficient business processes, workflows, and capturing and harnessing vital data to optimize their resources.
Thanks, Steve. That was really insightful. And I think one of the key messages from there is that requirement to maintain that level of momentum as organizations do start to move back to what the new normal will look like, and being able to continue that leverage and moving forward with those new processes that have been developed during the current sort of scenario. Moving forward, I wanted to kind of close off today's session with talking about benefits realization. It's often stated as becoming more innovative or more efficient. Do you think this goes far enough to maximize the benefits of digital transformation programs or projects of work? And why do you think measurement of benefits is such an important facet of program delivery?
So Dave, I really don't think it goes far enough to maximize those benefits. Change programs really need to be benefits driven from the start. To me, it's the golden thread of delivery. So often we're finding that benefits aren't very well defined at all. This can only result in a slow rate of change, a lack of momentum, as you mentioned, and a lack of faith across the organization. Benefits need to be clear and measurable. So to gain the necessary buy-in, the focus needs to be sustainable, and that needs to be focused on where you're trying to get to. Part of the importance of measuring a benefit extends to the assessment of value. Value for money allows those informed choices that the investment committee need to understand. That's what's going to drive the transformation program forward, and they need to know when those benefits are going to be realized. Finally, I think it's important to remember that clarity and simplification can sometimes be a really key way to set apart any successful transformation. You should be considering what can be cut loose, what legacy ways of working can be stopped. So think about what to stop doing, and think about them as the quick wins that can be achieved.
Thanks, Stephen, and thanks again for joining us today. And I look forward to catching up with you on the final of our three-part, our trilogy of vlogs as we move forward on digital transformation. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Dave. Cheers.